Badlands. Explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily.
It really feels like the cat with the laser pointer. It's like you've led the cat up to the top of the building, and now you're leading it over the edge.
President Trump is rebalancing trade around the world and making things more fair for the American people.
I think that anytime the deep state can like overcapitalize in whatever situation they have, they're going to.
But the rest of it is a very well organized and well funded color revolution operation of the type they run all over the world again and again and again to destabilize entire society.
All right, good morning, Badlandia. Welcome to Badlands Daily. Today is Ash Wednesday. I'm making it stick. It's happening. How you doing today, Ash?
I'm doing well. It's pretty much winter's over, and we didn't really have one. We got like 2 snowstorms the whole winter, and now it's starting to warm up, although it's may snow on Sunday, but then the following Friday, it's supposed to be 80. So we're in bipolar Colorado spring now, which is nice.
Whoa. We actually have a cold front that's going to come through next week, which
like 75, something like that.
74 is the high.
Yeah.
And it's Christy told me the other day, she's like, well, I guess there goes our summer or there goes our winter. We're now into summer 1. Yeah. And then I looked and I saw it and I was like, yes, one more cool front that we get to reel in. I'll probably go to the Renaissance Festival for that weekend.
Oh, I love that. Dude, you got to dress up.
We're going this weekend, and I will be wearing a kilt.
Nice.
So,
is Christy going as a wench?
Probably.
She'd make a smoking hot wench.
She has all those crazy, little get-ups and stuff like that. I don't. I have a kilt. I'll probably wear my Marine Corps boots.
Some sort of cord.
I don't know what I'm going to do for a shirt. I don't know what I'm going to do, but we always have a good time there, and the weather will be nice and cool. So I'm all for it. By
nice and cool, everyone, he means 74 degrees.
That's a high. It's going to be in the 50s at night. All right.
Allegedly.
All right, guys. Welcome to the show. What's up?
I was just going to say all shows are why we vote now.
All shows are why we vote now.
Asawavna.
Ash texted me this last night, and she's like, ASAWWV, and I'm like, what the f is she talking about? And then it clicked because she said it on I think on Daily Herald or something. She's like, all shows are why we vote now. And I was like, now I got what she's saying. Yeah, we're definitely going to have a lot of election stuff on this show as well, because it is in the news. And so we will cover it. Before we do that, though, we got to get into our sponsors. Ash, you want to talk about frequency apps?
Every day, people are fighting the same battles: cravings that hit out of nowhere, stress that derails good intentions, habits that feel impossible to break. And while the world pushes quick fixes, injections, and synthetic shortcuts, most people are just looking for support that fits their lifestyle, without needles, without drugs, without side effects they never asked for. That's why Frequency Apps created the GLP Alternative Patch, a natural frequency-based wellness patch made right here in the USA, inspired by the body's own GLP-1 pathway. It delivers natural, frequency-driven support for people who want balance, clarity, and control in their daily routine. Peel it, apply it, and forget it. It works quietly in the background while you live your day, at work, at home, and in the moments where cravings usually win. No injections, no complicated protocols, no side effects, just natural, needle-free support for a healthier balance. But the GLP alternative patch is only the beginning. Frequency Apps offers a full lineup of affordable, easy-to-use homeopathic patches designed to support everyday wellness. Whether someone needs help with relaxing, comfort, or clarity, there's a patch built for that moment. Each patch uses frequency-based technology to support the body's energetic balance. No mess, no mixing, no learning curve. Just stick it on and go. It's part of a health journey that fits real life, not the other way around. Badlanders can save $20 off the new GLP alternative patch with code FREEDOM. Subscriptions are available too, saving up to 20% for ongoing support. Visit frequencyapps.com today. Frequencyapps.com. I have my biggest kind of selling point of these patches is that the adhesive on these patches does not irritate your skin. It's the only patch product that I've ever used that did not make it feel like there was something flesh eating into my skin. These things are nice and gentle and calm. So good stuff. Frequencyapps.com.
Yeah, I used their stuff. They sent me a couple patches when I had my back pain like a year and a half ago or so, and yeah, it helped out a lot. I had nerve pain, and I kept it on there. Everything they say is correct. It doesn't fall off or anything. You just put it on there and completely forget about it. Good stuff.
Yeah, I had totally sworn off patches before I found frequency apps because of it's like I don't know if it's just me thing where it's like allergies or something, like an actual reaction to any sort of adhesive. Happens a little bit with Band-Aids too, but not with frequency apps. There's whatever they use for their adhesive. It, like Brian said, it doesn't fall off, but also it's not like super chemically or anything like that. It doesn't hurt.
Good to go. All right, guys. And also this Thursday, GART ticket holders' first exclusive live stream will be Thursday, March 12th at 2 p.m. Eastern. You will get a link sent out by 1 p.m. on the 12th. You can grab your virtual tickets for GART 11 in Nashville at a special early bird price until March 15th. I believe that's Saturday. After that, the regular price of $40 will kick in. Visit badlandsmedia.tv/events to snag the lowest price for your virtual tickets. GART 11 coming up, Nashville, Tennessee, April 9th through the 12th.
Fact check false. The 15th is Sunday.
Oh, Sunday. Okay, excuse me. Sunday. Oh, St. Patrick's Day is on a Sunday this year.
St. Patrick's Day is the 17th.
Oh, that's right. So it's a Tuesday. That's even worse.
Brian is very discombobulated today.
I'm so where's my discombobulator?
Yeah.
I don't have it in front of me, but there it is. Okay, now I'm zapped back into reality. All right, guys, let's get into the news. If you have not done so, please smash that thumbs up. It takes all of 2 seconds. If you're watching on your Fire Stick or your Roku or whatever, just press up, click the thumb, and then click the back button before it goes away. You won't interrupt the show. Helps us out tremendously. And let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to start. I'm calling a little bit of an audible here. We're going to start off first with some Iran coverage. We had a phone call with President Putin, Trump and President Putin yesterday. And let's start off first with Lindsey.
Monday?
It was Tuesday, I think. He revealed it yesterday. I should have said.
That they had a phone call? Did they have another phone call? Because they revealed that they had a phone call on Monday.
No, they revealed it yesterday because we talked about it yesterday briefly, but now we're getting the details.
It was in our brief Tuesday morning, which was written on Monday. So
maybe it was Monday, but we'll get into that because it's part of the oil situation and Trump just absolutely crushing the propaganda that's coming out of like the CNNs of the world. But you'll see. But first, let's play this clip here. Lindsey Graham saying that you got to send your kids off to die for this cause.
Up to our allies, step up, get our air bases out of Spain. They're not reliable. Move all those airplanes to a country that would let us use them when we're threatened by a regime like Iran. To our friends in Spain, man, you have lost your way. I don't want to do business with you anymore. I want our air bases out of Spain into a country that will let us use them. To our Arab friends, I've tried to help you construct a new Mideast. You need to up your game here. I can't go to South Carolina and say we're fighting and you won't publicly fight. What you're doing behind the scenes That has to stop. The double dealing of the Arab world when it comes to this stuff needs to end. I go back to South Carolina. I'm asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast. What I want you to do in the Mideast, our friends in Saudi Arabia and other places, step forward and say, this is my fight too. I join America. I'm publicly involved in bringing this regime down. If you don't, you're making a great mistake, and you're going to cut off the ability to have a better relationship with the United States. I say this as a friend.
So you can't go to South Carolina and ask the parents there to send their sons and daughters off to fight unless the rest of the world is going to get behind him. Who does he think he is, going out there and saying, hey, Spain, I don't want to do business? You're a senator, dude. You're not the president of the United States. Now, granted, he is, echoing the same sentiment that President Trump said last week regarding Spain, like we're not going to do business with you. But who does Lindsey Graham think he is, going out there and talking like that? I just, anybody that listens to this guy, I mean,
yeah, I think when Ghost talks about bloodlust, that's kind of what you see on Lindsey Graham's face. And, as the mother of military age sons, I find this incredibly offensive. I don't know if you're going to pull in some of the other.
I got one last clip.
Yeah, he's been running his mouth a lot this week and saying things that are pissing off every faction of American, and rightfully so, because I wonder what the op is. I wonder what the op is for trotting out Lindsey Graham and giving him any sort of authority to speak on behalf of the administration, and certainly any sort of authority to negotiate with world leaders. Who does this guy think he is the right question. But the reality, Brian, is that he can only do this if Trump lets him.
Well, yes, I agree with that. Trump keeps him on a very tight leash, it seems. I mean, he's rolled him out at several of the speaking events throughout the campaign to booze, humiliation ritual. I don't know what you want to call it. He goes out and golfs with him. Who knows what kind of discussions they have while they're on the golf course. You got to think that that's kind of a clandestine operation conducted by President Trump. Who knows? Maybe Lindsey Graham's playing a role. I mean, people point to, I think it was the Kavanaugh hearing where Graham is talking about military tribunals for treason and everything else. And yeah, that's one thing that he said in his last, 8 years or maybe even his entire career, that you're actually like, okay, I can get behind that. But the rest of everything he said, he's just another, like you said, bloodlusting warmonger who says, if you're not, if you're, I shared this over the weekend. He's the same guy that came out and said, I stand with Israel. If you don't stand with Israel, I'm not standing with you, referring to anti-Semites, which, let's face it, anything, if you criticize the Israeli government, you are an anti-Semite. So that term is a watered down
definition. What's the definition of anti-Semitism? Everything
that's not.
It is, according to the rabbis and the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, it is the hate that is ever changing and evolves over time, and we know it when we see it.
Yes.
Well, that's convenient. That's convenient because we can never actually be 100% certain that we're outside of the boundaries of the anti-Semitism designation unless we check out of the conversation entirely and don't have a position or forward an argument whatsoever, which is what they want. They want to shut down any dissent, any debate over whether or not this nation is able to do whatever it wants in the region, and with America backing it up without question. And if you ask questions about that, you're full of hate. That's what we're told. That is using the name of the Lord for your own kingdom and for really unbiblical, ungodly stuff.
Diabolical. Let's go ahead and play this clip. This is an older one, but just to show you the bloodlust. Remember I played the clip of him at the State of the Union when Trump started talking about NATO paying their fair share and how much money he's pumping into the military and all that. And Lindsey Graham's just sitting back there licking his lips, just looking like, ugh.
In the United States, you just wait to see what comes in the next 2 weeks.
The next 2 weeks, meaning what?
We're going to blow the hell out of these people. This regime is in a death row now. It is going to be on its knees. It's going to fall. And when it falls, we're going to have peace like no other time. We're going to have prosperity unlike anyone could ever imagine. Peace.
It's ironic, Lindsey Graham talking about blowing the hell out of people and having them on their knees, but it is what it is.
I wonder, Brian, if what they're doing is kind of the 1984 2 minutes of hate thing, because when he's on the screen, I want to rage and scream and throw stuff, and I wonder if that's the intention.
That is a fascinating. That is a very interesting idea right there. The 2 minutes of rage, hate. That's quite interesting.
It's effective, whether it's intended or not. That is the that's what's happening, and it's effective. Wahlberg says, "Can we fire Lindsey Graham at Iran?" I support that message.
So I thought that this clip here, we're going to play Dick Blumenthal talking about the briefing that he just got and how he was on Iran and how he was kept in the dark. And this was kind of interesting to me after the conversation we had with Ghost yesterday. So Ghost was saying, we've essentially kind of created a vacuum in Iran for the CIA. We've removed a lot of their proxies. We've removed a lot of their ability. If you look, over the last year, what Trump has done with, USAID, National Endowment, Institute for Peace, and all of these institutions that were funding these color revolutions, they are in fact creating a vacuum. And when you go into his speech yesterday, or his press conference yesterday, when he was asked about Khamenei staying in power, or his son staying in power, and President Trump saying, well, we think now that it probably is going to be someone internal. And he invokes Iraq and some of the, previous regimes, Syria, and how we go in there without a real plan on putting in somebody that can control that country and be an effective leader of that country, and creates a vacuum that allows things like ISIS and ISIL and Al-Qaeda and all these other organizations to rise up, which, as Gordon said, are mainly CIA backed. And again, a lot of people don't understand when you say that they're CIA backed, and funded and guided in a direction. Ultimately, they do their own thing. Yes, they are, radical Islamists and everything else like that, but they are pushed in the directions that allegedly, but they're pushed in the direction that the CIA wants them to go. And so they're Islamic terrorists with a leash around their neck, pull them back when you have to.
Did you just unironically use the term ISIL?
Yeah, I think I did say ISIL. Well, I remember when ISIS was ISIL for a little while. And
no, only Obama. Only Obama called it ISIL.
Yeah, there were a couple people. All right, so here's Blumenthal talking about his briefing.
I emerged from this briefing as dissatisfied and angry, frankly, as I have from any past briefing in my 15 years in the Senate. I am left with more questions than answers, especially about the cost of the war.
Oh, we care about the cost of war?
My questions,
yes, now we do,
have been unanswered. And I will demand answers because the American people deserve to know. And I guess I am most concerned about the threat to American lives of potentially deploying our sons and daughters on the ground in Iran. We seem to be on a path toward deploying American troops on the ground in Iran to accomplish any of the potential objectives here. And there is also, as disturbingly as anything else, the specter of active Russian aid to Iran, putting in danger American lives. Literally, Russia seems to be aiding our enemy actively and intensively with intelligence and perhaps with other means. And China also may be assisting Iran.
Do you see the irony in that? Russia might be aiding our enemy with intelligence and funding, as he's wearing a Ukraine American flag pin on his lapel. Like, dude, do you not see the hypocrisy in what you're saying right here? First and foremost, there's no solid proof, and we'll get into the phone call here in a second. But the United States has given billions openly given billions to Ukraine in order to fight the Ruskies And Blumenthal is now bitching about the same thing happening in the proxy war that we're engaged in.
Yeah, I mean, he opens his remarks by saying that he's the most dissatisfied he's ever been in all of his exchanges in these hearings, echoing the sentiment most likely of every woman he's ever touched in his life. But I think that looking at the double pin thing to me is treason. I don't think you equate. I think you equate the United States of American flag. You put it in the same size, same level, and attach it to another pin. They do that with the Israel pin as well. You get the American pin attached to the Israel pin, American pin attached to the Ukraine pin. It's despicable and disgusting. And I think when we see it, we should call those people out to their faces. The biggest takeaway I have though, Brian, is that he seems scared. And we're talking. So we're reading the really stupid CIA rewrite book right now, and it's kind of choose your own bad guy in there, right? You've got all of the bad guys line. We just got Iran, Russia, China, right, all in one thing, which gives them the plausible deniability to wage war on multiple fronts. It's what they want. They don't want the checks and balances. They don't want the oversight. The words coming out of his mouth appear to be, national defense and strategic imperative type of questions from a defense standpoint. But the delivery, the tone in his voice, the shaking of his body, the look on his face, he seems scared.
I agree. I don't know necessarily why. I mean, I think there's something going on that none of us are privy to. I know Alpha has touched on some theories. Gordon's touched on some theories. When you look at the oil situation that's taking place over there, you're seeing a realignment. We're going to get into a story here in a second where Putin is coming to be the hero of the EU potentially. It hasn't happened yet, but there's something going on there. Blumenthal, who has never been one to shy away from military spending, he's been a proponent of Middle East action in the past significantly. I think Gordon was saying yesterday that he was one of the conspirators that essentially created the vacuum for ISIS to come out of the
he's the kind of guy that was probably saying ISIL, right? You said there was a few people saying he was one of those.
He probably was. I don't want to misspeak on that. I'll leave that to Gordon, but I'm pretty sure he's talked about Blumenthal's involvement in that. But
his name is Dick. Let's just remember that.
I think that's the third sexual reference we've made so far in this show between Lindsey Graham.
It's really gross.
Blumenthal.
It's really gross when you look at who we're talking about.
Well, then stop putting that in our minds. What are you doing?
Triggered people turn their brains on, Brian.
Not in that direction. Not in that direction. I know you've got some sort of a weird infatuation with Dick Blumenthal, but
you know what? But actually, while I was watching that, his face looks different to me. I don't know if anybody else sees that. Like, it looks like, I don't know, maybe he's a little bit more swollen or something, but he looks different.
Botox.
It could be.
The lower lip. Look at the lower lip. That's Botox, baby.
Oh, come on, Dick. You're supposed to do the upper lip. That's the plumping.
These people don't want to change, man. They don't want to get old. They don't want to get old. The adrenochrome is running out. I don't know. So here's President Trump at his press conference yesterday or the day before talking about Putin, and this will segue into the oil segment.
Do you approve of Iran's new supreme leader? And secondly, can you tell us more about your call with Russian President Vladimir Putin today?
Yes.
What did you discuss?
Yes, I had a very good call with President Putin. We had a lot of people on the line from our side, from his side. We were talking about Ukraine, which is just a never-ending fight. And look, there's tremendous hatred between President Putin and President Zelensky. They can't seem to get it together. But I think it was a positive call on that subject. And we obviously talked then about the Middle East. And he wants to be helpful. I said, you could be more helpful by getting the Ukraine-Russia war over with. That would be more helpful. But we had a very good talk, and he wants to be very constructive. Yeah.
Do you?
So a couple of interesting things. First, qualifying the or characterizing the relationship between Putin and Zelensky as they hate each other is kind of interesting. I mean, I think we all would understand that there's no love lost between Zelensky and Putin, but that was kind of interesting. But then You know, kind of
Before you
doing
move off of that I find that I'm offended on behalf of Putin because it's kind of a false equivalency and there's no equivalency there. I see the dynamic as, you know, there's Putin and then there's this little gnat that keeps crying to everybody to give him money.
Well, to be fair, when I'm out, you know, in the woods or whatever, and you get swarmed by a swarm of gnats, right? You hate those gnats. I mean, you don't give them a second thought other than to flick them away, but you ultimately hate them, right? You're like, you're so annoying, get the hell away from me, and you swat them away. So it's kind of the same. I think that's a equal comparison there.
Remember when people like Dick Blumenthal tried to convince us that Zelensky was a hero?
Oh yeah, Ben Stiller was doing that just this week. I mean, well, he wasn't doing it this week. It resurfaced this week as he's telling us that don't use my Tropic Thunder clips, which never go full retard, by the way.
He did the meme.
He did the
on
meme.
his own movie.
On his own movie. On his own movie. War is not a movie, as he's literally telling you to take away a movie that is about a movie being made during an actual war. Ironic. But yeah, so the other thing that was kind of interesting is the tit for tat between, you know, end the Ukraine war, we'll end the Iranian war, but also Trump is saying that him and Putin's offering assistance if they need it. Like, hey, what can we do to help end this war? Not, hey, we're giving them intelligence, we're funding them to attack you. We haven't heard, other than the first day or two, we haven't heard of any Iranian attacks on U.S. assets. I mean, there's been, you know, some propaganda out there about whether or not Iran's hitting Israel or not, or some of the Saudi, some of the Arab nations. But we haven't really heard anything about them hitting the United States. We had the first attack where we had 7 service members, tragically killed, but it hasn't been anything since then. So kind of interesting. Now let's use that. We're going to stay on the oil for a second here, and actually got a really good question yesterday I think it was yesterday. My timeline's all jacked up today. I thought St. Patrick's Day was on Sunday and it's on Tuesday, but I believe this was yesterday. Jordan Conradson asking Secretary of War Pete Hegseth and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs Dan Kane a question. He goes with Hegseth asking about the oil fields that were being struck, and interesting response from Hegseth on this.
Secretary Hegseth, thank you. Jordan Conradson from Gateway Pundit. Axios reported, citing U.S. and Israeli sources, that the U.S. was not happy with strikes on 30 fuel depots in Iran. While this is anonymous sourcing, you know, it seems kind of congruent with what President Trump said yesterday, that there's certain spots they don't want to hit relating to energy infrastructure that would take a long time to rebuild. And you know, whether this reporting is true or not, what's your message to Americans, those who supported the president and those who aren't really in favor of this war and who worry that Israel might be taking advantage of the U.S.'s backing? And then for Mr. Chairman, for you, I wanted to ask, when you say that we're moving inland, what capabilities does Iran have to shoot down jets over their land? And would that trigger some kind of rescue operation that could risk a bigger ground operation?
Well, I would just state by saying Israel's been a really strong partner in this effort. Where they have different objectives, they've pursued them. Ultimately, we've stayed focused on ours. But what Iran has felt is the power of the world's 2 most powerful air forces. In that particular case, those weren't our strikes or that objective, or that wasn't necessarily our objective. But the president has made it clear to those concerns that we're not getting pulled in any direction. We're leading. The president is leading. He's determining where we want to go, what the outcome will be, what the end state is, with a very keen eye. And I understand those concerns because I've heard from a lot of people who I went through 20 years of those wars myself, worried about getting dragged in, worried about mission creep, worried about nation building or democracy expansion. That's never the perspective the president has pursued on this. Just because previous presidents.
So, okay, we can land that there, and I can summarize.
Can you restate his question? Because I got lost in his question. It was a little rambly.
Yeah, so he's basically asking, hey, Israel is striking these oil fields in Iran. Are we backing this? And Hegseth says, no, that's their own objective. We're not the ones backing the attacks on these oil fields. That is Israel acting on their own. He says it very much more non-confrontationally, not so. He's not even passive aggressive in how he says it. He's just saying, hey, Israel has their objectives, we have ours. We're doing our thing, they're doing their thing. We're not really, there's no cross-pollination here, or minimal cross-pollination of ideas. And I thought that was interesting because we saw the footage yesterday. Ghost and I played it on Daily, and Ghost played it on his geopolitics segment as well. That is something that is like, it takes some time to rebuild these oil fields and these refineries and everything else like that. Attacking those is not the brightest move. And so, immediately when I saw that yesterday, I was like, this doesn't seem like something that we should be doing, attacking oil fields. And now we get confirmation from Pete Hegseth, who's, a friend to Israel and all this. Let's be real here, saying that they did it on their own. And, again, is that more evidence that there is some sort of a gap in communication between the United States and Israel, and how this war, or a special operation, whatever you want to call it, is being conducted?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could speculate on that. I'm not sure he gave us enough. Hegseth gave us enough to make that a definitive statement.
I mean, I think, okay, you're talking about me
U.S. and Israel, the U.S. and that there's daylight between them on this thing. I think it serves their purposes, and certainly in the U.S. with how divisive the issue is. I think it serves the purposes to say that they're pursuing their objectives and we're pursuing our objectives. And when we have the same objectives, we're pursuing them together, but we're doing our own things when we need to. I think that is that's a story that services the division and kind of helps create the ability for distance if necessary. When it comes to the actuals, I would be really surprised if there's daylight between them.
So you think that Israel came to the U.S. before they struck the oil refinery or the oil fields? I don't know if they're refineries or fields. Do you think they came to the U.S. and said, "Hey, we're going to do this"?
Yes.
Oh man, see, I don't think so. I think that was an action to try and provoke Russia or China to enter this.
Okay. Well, then what do you make of the U.S. response then?
What do you mean?
Going along with them.
I think we've gone along with them the whole way. They're our allies in this. We've gone along with them the whole way. Now, the public, what's being said in the public is totally different in a situation like this from what's said behind closed doors. Trump does this all the time.
I thought we were talking about behind closed doors. You don't think that Israel came and did and approached the U.S., right?
I don't think so.
You think they're acting unilaterally and the U.S. is responding to their stimulus?
Yeah,
I don't think we're that weak, but there's a lot of people that think that Trump is owned by the Jews. I'm not one of them.
No. I don't think at all that. But I'm saying what is said publicly is different from what goes on behind the scenes.
But we're not talking about what's said publicly. We're talking about what we think is happening behind the scenes.
But there hasn't been any escalation of the refineries. Another one hasn't been hit since then. They haven't hit another one yet. In fact, we're going to talk about the mines here in a second. That Iran is laying out, which also I believe is propaganda. But yeah, I don't think that we were aware that they were going to be doing that. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Could be. Again, this is all just pure speculation on our part because we don't know the behind closed doors meetings and stuff that go on there. But so in response to that, Moscow Times put this out on Monday. Russia ready to supply oil and gas to Europe if it asks, Putin says. I had this story. I mentioned it briefly yesterday. We didn't get into it. It says Russia would supply oil and gas to European buyers provided such cooperation was quote unquote long-term and did not put political pressure on Moscow. Putin said Moscow would continue to supply oil to its quote unquote reliable partners in Asia, as well as EU members Hungary and Slovakia. If European companies and European buyers suddenly decide to reorient themselves and provide us with long-term sustainable cooperation devoid of political pressures, then go ahead. We've never refused, Putin said. It says the EU banned maritime imports of Russian crude in 2022. That's in response to the Ukraine war, while Russia's pipeline exports to Hungary and Slovakia have been effectively halted since January due to damage to the Druzhba oil pipeline via Ukraine. Putin's comments came hours after Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban urged the EU to suspend the sanctions on Russian oil and gas to counter prices sent soaring by the war in the Middle East. You know, the Russia deal with Hungary and Slovakia is kind of a nuanced sovereign alliance proof right there. You know, you have Orban in Hungary and what's his name? The guy that got shot. What the heck is his name? Why is it escaping me? What's the guy that got shot? The prime minister of Slovakia.
No.
He has the really weird name that it looks like Cedric or something. Anyways, the one that got they tried to assassinate him, the journalist, the quote unquote journalist. But they've been the ones that have been dealing with Russia still, and they're all Fico. There it is. No, it's spelled Fico, but it has that little curly Q on the bottom of the C.
Okay.
And I'm told it's a Z, so it's Fico. I knew that.
May 15th, 2024, injured in an assassination attempt.
Yeah, that guy. They're big time, you know, Trump aligned in this right here, and they're also the only two EU countries that are dealing with Russia in terms of oil. So anyways, I just thought that was interesting, pushing Putin, or Putin pushing, hey, we'll supply you with oil as this war continues, prices go above $100 a barrel, whatever the case might be. Then we got this story from Natasha Bertrand, of all people.
Oh, she's your favorite.
My favorite writer of all times, the 51 intel spies who lie, Iranian, it is Russian disinformation, the famous quote.
Look at her out still publishing news articles like she has credibility.
Yeah. Iran begins laying mines in the Strait of Hormuz, sources say, updated 14 hours ago. It was written yesterday. And so President Trump yesterday at 4:07 p.m. addresses this, and he says, quote, if Iran has put out any mines in the Hormuz Strait and we have no reports of them doing so, there's a shot at Bertrand's reporting right there. We want them removed immediately. If for any reason mines were placed and they are not removed forthwith, the military consequences of Iran will be at a level never seen before. If, on the other hand, they remove what may have been placed, it will be a giant step in the right direction. Additionally, we are using the same technology and missile capabilities deployed against drug traffickers to permanently eliminate any boat or ship attempting to mine the Hormuz Strait. They will be dealt with quickly and violently. Beware, President Donald J. Trump. That was at 4:07 p.m. At 4:20 p.m., 13 minutes later, he says, I'm pleased to report that within the last few hours, we have hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine-laying boats and or ships with more to follow.
Yeah. You want to know how they did it?
With that guy right there?
Yeah.
EOD Marco Rubio. I'm surprised you didn't go with the dolphins that you guys were talking about.
Oh, I love the dolphins. I don't want. Yeah. That is. It's true. We have spy dolphins. The Russians have the best ones, allegedly.
I think I know we've had the dolphins for a long time. Not the Miami Dolphins, but the ship dolphins, the mine-seeking dolphins.
We've had the Miami Dolphins for a long time too.
You have.
Yeah.
Probably longer than the ship dolphins.
Than the mine dolphin.
Probably. I think so. But I don't even know how that would work. So if these ships are out there laying mines in the Hormuz Strait and we need our mine-sweeping dolphins, do we have like a ship with a Shamu SeaWorld tank on it?
Yeah.
And we just bring them over and we just drop them into the water and we're like, okay, go do your things. And then you blow the whistle and they come back to the ship. And
that would be so sad if something happened to a mine-sweeping dolphin, though. That would be a rough.
Christy just texted me. Is she listening? No, I thought she might be because she was talking about the mine-sweeping dolphins.
Yeah. Well, we weren't talking about mine-sweeping dolphins on alphas. We were talking about spy dolphins and spy birds because they use birds as spies too, and cats.
Yeah, but the mine-sweeping dolphins definitely came up.
Way cooler.
Alphas. Definitely came up.
Yeah, spy dolphins.
All right, so in response to the destruction of an oil field in Iran, the mine-sweeping dolphins in the Strait of Hormuz.
Love it.
Natasha Bertrand's
Are there
article.
dolphins native to the Strait of Hormuz?
I highly doubt
that
it.
Body of water. Do we have?
Maybe. Google that.
Like Muslim dolphins swimming around. All right, I'm looking it up. Keep going.
I could just see a dolphin with a turban. Anyways,
my head went too.
In response to all of that, President Trump also put this out. America is returning to real energy dominance. Today, I'm proud to announce the America First Refining is opening the first new U.S. oil refinery in 50 years in Brownsville, Texas, a historic $300 billion deal, the biggest in U.S. history, a massive win for American workers, energy, and the great people of South Texas. Thank you to our partners in India and their largest privately held energy company, Reliance, for their tremendous investment. It is because of our America First agenda, streamlining permits and lowering taxes that have attracted billions of dollars in deals coming back to our nation. A new refinery at the Port of Brownsville will fuel U.S. markets, strengthen our national security, boost American energy production, deliver billions of dollars in economic impact, and will be the cleanest refinery in the world. It will power global exports and bring thousands of long overdue jobs and growth to a region that deserves it. This is what American energy dominance looks like. America first, always.
There are Indo-Pacific bottlenose dolphins that are native to the region.
Wow.
Yeah.
Echo the dolphin.
They look just like our bottlenose dolphins.
Do you remember that video game?
Maybe a little bit shorter snout.
Do you remember that game, Echo the Dolphin?
No.
Such a propaganda video game. You're like this dolphin that has to go clean up pollution in the ocean. This was like the 1990s video game. Like the internet was still dial up and you could only connect. And yeah. All right. So we're done with the Iran stories, I believe, for today. That was the big thing, the Strait of Hormuz and the mines that President Trump just, well, you can't give the slap. You guys know what I'm talking about, to Natasha Bertrand, because missing parts. But, President Trump kind of put that to bed real quick. 13 minutes to destroy Iran's 10 inactive mine-sweeping ships. So let's get into this story here. The Lawfare, CBS News, DOJ's Ed Martin faces ethics charges from disciplinary office over threatening letter to Georgetown University. The deep state really hates it when you threaten their deep state university institutions, and you cannot do that. Martin last year sent a threatening letter to the Georgetown University Law Center that raised questions about its diversity and inclusion policies while he was serving as the interim U.S. attorney in D.C. In the February 17th Keck letter to the law school, Martin told university officials that a whistleblower claimed Georgetown was teaching DEI and asked them about the practice. Without waiting for a response, he told the school he was imposing sanctions by instructing his office staff not to employ any students from the school as fellows, interns, or employees at the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. Now, Martin may have said it's because of the DEI. I think it's because of the CIA ties to that university, but that's just me personally. If you want to keep the deep state out of D.C., you got to stop employing recruits from deep state schools.
I mean, your next paragraph kind of supports your position there.
Yeah. The other thing real quick that I do want to highlight is it does say without waiting for a response. And I tried to look at the timeline here and there is no timeline. Like, how long did Ed Martin wait? Did he wait a day? Did he wait an hour, a month, a week? It doesn't say how long he waited before he said, okay, well, we're just going to sanction you guys. So reading on, it says the school's now former dean, William Traynor, told Martin that his letter represented, quote, an attack on the university's mission as a Jesuit and Catholic institution, end quote. In filings made by the D.C. Court of Appeals Board on Professional Responsibility, disciplinary counsel Hamilton Phil Fox III of the D.C. Bar. Does that name sound familiar, Ash?
I don't know how you get Phil out of Hamilton.
Hamilton Phil Fox, excuse me.
No, I know, but Phil is in quotations, meaning that's his nickname. That's the name he goes by, is Phil. How do you get Phil from Hamilton?
Oh, I don't know. You made me think I misspoke. Way to go.
No, you didn't. I'm attacking his name, not your pronunciation of his name.
All right. I don't know. I don't know where you get Phil from.
I don't know why is it familiar?
He's the I guess prosecutor, or counsel that went after Jeff Clark.
Oh, yeah. I did not know that.
Yeah, he's the one that argued against. I remember. How can you forget that name? Hamilton Phil Fox III. so distinguished because he has the third. That means he's got a generation that's worth passing the name down. Not just the bloodline, but the name as well.
I think it means that he's always in the shadow and never quite good enough. But
that could be it too. That could be it too. You're living in the shadow of the OG
of the first and second.
Disciplinary counsel Hamilton Phil Fox, the third of the DC bar, alleged that Martin's conduct as a government official violated the First and Fifth Amendments by making demands that the law school change what it teaches students and how it teaches them. Quote, acting in his official capacity and speaking on behalf of the government, he used coercion to punish or suppress a disfavored viewpoint, the teaching and promotion of DEI, the filing says. He demanded that the Georgetown law relinquish its free speech and religious rights in order to obtain a benefit, employment opportunities for its students, end quote. I'm wondering how much funding the federal government puts into Georgetown, how much they get from the federal government. I would imagine it's quite substantial, but I would also imagine that a lot of it comes through NGOs as pass-throughs to Georgetown, but I digress.
Yeah, but that's an important point, is that when the the aid kind of grift was exposed through Doge, and then ostensibly systemic changes put in place. And I think that I think we see evidence that there were changes put in place to this, because everyone's begging us for money now, right? Like all of these news sites that were previously considered to be news sites were apparently existing on US funding. Democracy Docket and Mark Elias, that guy is begging for money every time he speaks. The EI ISAC, the MS ISAC, all of these people are now, their number one job is fundraising so that they can stay in business. That's new. That's a change. These entities were not begging us for money before. They had money. And so I think that's one of the most notable things in this sort of domain. So yeah, not terribly surprising to see, but it's confirming the hell out of my biases.
I think even Politico now has a paywall on some of their articles.
Yep.
And Politico was infamously the one that was like exposed as having the $8 million payoff that they were getting for their access to their, government exclusive content or whatever it was, like the subscriptions. That's what it was, subscriptions. And, they were paying, the government was paying them $8 million so government officials could read Politico. Okay.
Speaking of ugly and offensive grifters, do you have that Mark Elias video I sent you?
I do. Send it in Telegram. But let's keep going with this. In a statement, the Justice Department accused the DC bar of being a partisan organization. Absolutely. The DC bar's attempt to target and punish those serving President Trump while refusing to investigate or act against actual ethical violations that were committed by Biden and Obama attorneys is a clear indication of this partisan organization's agenda. I mean, there's a lot more than just that, but good starting point for the DOJ in their statement. The complaint against Martin also noted that when the Office of Disciplinary Counsel initially received a complaint against him, Martin refused to engage. Good call, and instead sent an ex parte letter to the chief judge and the senior judges of the DC Court of Appeals. Quote, in that letter, he stated that he would not be responding to the disciplinary counsel's inquiry, complained about the disciplinary counsel's uneven behavior, and requested a face-to-face meeting with all of you, the justices on the judges on the appellate court, to discuss this matter and find a way forward. Because of his communications with the judge and a request to dismiss the case, Martin is now also facing charges of improperly communicating ex parte with a judge during a proceeding and engaging in conduct that seriously interferes with the administration of justice. Martin has since been stripped of his title presiding over the Justice Department's weaponization working group, but remains on staff as its pardon attorney. I wonder if the last part I included that because I wonder if this filing, if there were whispers of this filing coming down, and that's why they removed him from the weaponization working group, because everything on its face appeared as though Ed Martin, like Todd Blanche came out and did it, right? And everybody was like, what's Todd Blanche doing? And then Martin puts out the video, the picture of him and Blanche, and he's like, everything's great. And they got their arm around each other. Like, everything's fine here. And, again, I think his work right now as a pardon attorney is more important. Getting to the bottom of the auto pen and all of that, debacle is one of the most important things, because it's kind of the gate right now to get to the further investigations and prosecutions. But yeah, I wonder if they had some foreknowledge of this coming down.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that if it weren't for conservative influencers, there wouldn't be any scandal around the Ed Martin, Todd Blanche thing.
True.
That was a story that got a bunch of cycles and a bunch of clicks and probably made a bunch of people revenue, but was disputed by everyone involved in it. So
true. Well, so the lawfare persists, and that was kind of my takeaway from this article. When I saw that this morning, I was like, oh, here we go. Lawfare still raging on, because that was where they got John Eastman, where they went after Jeff Clark, Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, like all of those lawyers that did the 2020 work. A lot of them have gone through either the DC, disciplinary action board or whatever their local jurisdictional board was. And it's continuing. Here we go.
Yeah.
Real quick, I do want to take a second here. We're going to hit a sponsor, and then we will get back into the news. And so let me get this pulled up here. Bear with me for 2 seconds. And there we go, guys. They can cancel your accounts and freeze your cards and decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support, or they'll put you in the DC board of bar disciplinary action. Now, big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company, not a board, but buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators that you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line that they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently, yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what is yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. All right. And thank you to Rumble Wallet. We got another story of the lawfare coming up right away. Here we go. Exclusive. This is from Tennessee Star. Jack Smith subpoenaed phone records of former Kansas Attorney General who led outside challenge to the 2020 election results. This is Phil Kline that we're talking about here. And we'll get into Phil Kline's the story on why I believe they targeted him. But a new document obtained by the Tennessee Star reveals that former Kansas Attorney General Phil Kline was among the 430 individuals or organizations subpoenaed by Jack Smith as part of the Arctic Frost probe, revealing for the first time that legal experts and organizations who sought to contest the results from outside the White House were included in Smith's investigation. Records reveal the special prosecutor's office contacted the telecommunications company on August 1st, 2023, to inform them of their obligation to produce Kline's records to comply with a grand jury subpoena. The subpoena sought subscriber information, names, addresses, records for inbound and outbound calls, text messages, and voicemails, as well as the means and source of payment to Verizon, which the document specified included credit card or bank accounts that Kline used to pay his phone bill. This is the first time, Ash, I think, that I've seen text messages and voicemails included. We were told that all the senators and everybody else was toll records. It wasn't the contents of what they were discussing, but just who they were talking to, when they were talking to, and for how long, but nothing about the content. This is the first I've heard of text message and voicemails.
Yeah, that's a bit, it definitely escalates it. I guess in my head, it always was just everything. You know? Like, I think privacy is a myth. I think that the monitoring apparatus of the government can basically get whatever they want. And when they do grand jury subpoenas kind of stuff, it's to cover their asses. Like, if you go back to the Samantha Power unmasking thing, like, does anybody think that they waited for the unmasking to know what was in those communications? I've always kind of thought that the unmasking was the paperwork to back up what they already did.
Yep. Reading on here. Oops, sorry. Reading on, it said it also sought any other phone numbers associated with Kline's account, as well as the IP addresses that he used to access the internet with his Verizon connected devices. The order was, of course, signed by the U.S. District Court Judge James Boasberg. Boasberg prohibited Verizon from informing Kline. Disgusting. That's such. It's insane. It's this is why I followed the Ed Martin with this, because the DOJ statement on this, that there's an uneven application of the law here, is glaring in this situation right here.
But isn't a judge's primary objective to safeguard justice and to safeguard the process, to call balls and strikes in the process, and to ultimately, because of the Constitution of the United States, to which he swears an oath, protecting the rights of the accused is one of their most profound, if not their most profound responsibility. Boasberg did the opposite. He was during the Merrick Garland, time of things, he was operating as an arm of the Department of Justice, not as an independent arbiter of justice.
Exactly. And I want to expand on that thought in just a second, but let me get through this real quick. Such disclosure will result in destruction of or tampering with evidence, intimidation of potential witnesses, and serious jeopardy to the investigation. This letter was signed by a U.S. former DOJ attorney who left his position in January of 2025. Of course he did. Smith's team sought Kline's records from October 1st, 2020 through January 31st, 2021, which is the narrower window than the others. Kline, of course, led the Amistad Project of the Thomas More Society during that period. Kline was also the first to accuse Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg of using the CTCL to fund a shadow campaign that, quote, illegally inflated turnout in key Democratic swing states, end quote, ahead of the 2020 election. Now, there's something else, and to your point right there about a judge's job to protect the accused and protect, the integrity of a case. What crime did Phil Kline? What crime did they articulate to Boasberg that Phil Kline could have committed? And that's the thing. You don't see any crime articulated.
Did he write a memo that proposed a legal theory? Because that
memo.
Yeah, did he draft a memo? Because that'll do you in. The reason that the judge, in my opinion, the reason that our justice system is structured the way that it is, and that we need our judges to be independent arbiters, is that prosecutors are like surgeons, right? They're always going to want to cut. They're always going to want to go hard at the problem with the solution that they know how to bring, which is prosecution to the fullest extent of the law. And when the evidence and the prosecutorial theories and the prosecutorial discretion is used for political purposes or for, perverted senses of justice. And in the case of Tina Peters, I was debating my DA, who, is obviously a prosecutor, a couple weeks ago, last Friday, actually, debating the DA about Tina Peters and whether or not the judge and the prosecutor allowing the prosecutor to present her intent to the jury and not defend against that, is that disqualifying? Does that bias the jury to the rest of the charges? You've now given her an intent. She's not allowed to defend against it. Doesn't that impact every single count in the indictment? My opinion is yes. You've biased the jury. It's done. You can't unring that bell with the jury once you've told them what her intent is and the judge allows it to stand. That's basically a found fact at that point. And if she's not allowed to defend against that being a found fact before the finder of fact, the jury, then you've corrupted the process. And I brought this point up to the prosecutor, Brian, and his answer was basically, yeah, but we all knew she was really, really guilty, so it's fine. Like we have to protect the process. We have to protect the outcome of the jury trial. So don't pay attention to the fact that her rights were violated. Now, a prosecutor is always going to view it that way, because that's their job. That's their orientation in the process. A defense attorney is always going to kind of, view it with the right from the framing of the rights of the accused. The judge is supposed to be the guy protecting the process and making sure that the biases of both sides, the offensive and the defensive side of this thing, that justice is served in that exchange. So when you have somebody like Boasberg or Matthew Barrett out in Mesa County, when you have somebody that is putting their thumb on the scale and deciding that their opinion of how this justice thing should go, because we just know they're really, really guilty. We know, you know what, that draft memo proves that they're a threat to democracy. So we need to take them out, and the process be damned, the rights be damned, the principles be damned. No, I'm sorry. It's a violation of their oath. And I feel like I'm using the word treason too much, but damn it if it doesn't apply here as well.
My question is, where did this debate with the DA take place?
On the radio, Drive Time Radio.
Is there
Ryan Schuling live program?
Is there
here
a
in
record
Colorado.
of this?
Yeah, I'll send it to you. I didn't send it to you. I thought I sent it to you already.
No.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm really not happy with it, because when he came back, so I pushed back on him, quoted the judge to him, and basically said, you can't do that. He came back and restated that her intent, we all know what her intent was, so she didn't need to defend it. And then the radio host cut me off, and I wasn't allowed to respond.
Oh,
so I'm
like,
not super happy about it, but I'll send it to you. Yeah.
Please do. I would have. You wouldn't have been able to cut me off. I'd have been screaming.
I was actually in the studio for that, so I went to the iHeartRadio studios for that, and so it was I couldn't have just kept going. That wouldn't have been appropriate.
Why? He was right next to you. I would have been like, excuse me, you're not.
The DA was on the phone.
I know.
He was there. That conversation continued all day long.
But the host that cut you off was there, right? Yeah, I'd have been like, dude, you're not going to cut me off.
Give me a solid shut the fuck up Ash face, like rivaling yours, which is hard to do. No.
Well, mine's ineffective. His is more effective. So I need to study his. I need to study his then. All right. So getting back to the Phil Kline thing, and we went off on a little tangent there, but that's okay because they're always fun. Do you know at that time what was going on with Phil Kline? And I thought that this was very interesting. You know who that guy is at the podium?
No.
That is Jesse Morgan.
Oh, truck driver guy?
Truck driver Jesse Morgan. And who is that to Jesse Morgan's right, our left? Phil Kline.
Yeah.
Phil Kline was the guy that brought Jesse Morgan forward in that same time frame. And I'm wondering.
That makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Text messages and voicemails, because everybody talks via text message. If you gave me an option, if you said, hey, you can either listen to phone conversations or you can get text messages of unwitting, unknowing people, not people like if somebody's mischievously doing something, I would take the phone call every day because there's no record of it unless they record it. But if you're talking about people that are just, going by to get by and going about their daily lives, I'll take the text messages every day, every single time. And so that's a pretty big deal. If we're actually getting texts and voicemails, that's very concerning. That's a little bit more than toll records, like we were told. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into this. Do you want to play the Elias clip now?
Yeah.
Is that a good section? Because I'm going to play the John
All
Solomon.
shows are why we vote now.
I know.
Asawavna.
People are going to think we're like talking like some like Swahili language or something like that, and that we're incredibly racist, and who cares? So you want to set this up?
Yeah, Mark Elias is freaking out again, and it's delightful.
That's a great setup. Mark Elias's lips are moving, so he's freaking out.
So he's wigging all the way out.
Right now, anything with his lips moving, wigging out.
Look, I think you put it really well in the introduction that the 2026 midterm elections are all around us. The attacks on democracy are all around us. And my fear is that people are not focused on these things, until way too close to election day. I mean, as you point out, we've now had 2 counties have their ballots seized, one by subpoena and one by search warrant. We have the Department of Justice in court trying to get access to the most sensitive data on voters that states keep in 30 states. At least a dozen Republican-controlled states have turned that data over voluntarily.
Okay, good.
Brian, is it the most sensitive data that states keep? It's like
I got into an argument with some retard on X over this because they're like, because I said, they're like, somebody asked, don't candidates get the voter rolls? And I said, I believe they get like names and addresses. And the DOJ is asking for names, addresses, the last four of your social security, which, by the way, they gave to you. The federal government gave you your social security number. So they already have it. Just throwing that out there. They already know your social security number. And some guys like, you believe you don't even know what the DOJ is seeking. And I'm like, this guy's new here. He doesn't know that if I load a question like that, I know the answer to it, at least with relative certainty. And of course, they bowed out of the conversation after that. Yeah, all they're asking for is name, address, and last four of your social.
Yeah, and they sell this information, the states,
Yes.
and they enter into contractual exchanges where they exchange this data for other things. But when it comes to the federal government verifying the veracity and accuracy of the voter rolls, it's the most sensitive data that states keep. And how dare the federal government ask for it? He's off his rocker. It gets better though.
Losing his proverbial shit.
So good.
Right. You have Congress having enacted a version of the SAVE Act, which would be a catastrophe for voters. You have the president insisting that doesn't go far enough and needs to also include provisions that do away with all voting by mail, and that he'll shut down all congressional business. He has said he will issue an executive order if Congress doesn't do this. I mean, we are on a fast-moving train towards an absolute a collision point for democracy between the president of the United States and the rule of law and free and fair elections. I said this in the run-up to the 2020 election, and I know, Nicole, you have been sounding the alarm as well, but we need everyone now to recognize that collision is not going to wait till November. It's going to start to take place before then.
Yeah.
What? I cannot for the life of me.
He's right.
I do too. I definitely agree. But going back to the SAVE Act, like, why are the leftist derps melting down so hard over the SAVE Act? And I'm not talking about Schumer. Like, I expect him. He's got to show a solid front in defiance of the SAVE Act passing. But like, why is everybody else freaking out about this thing when it is dead on arrival? There is no way that the SAVE Act is going to pass under the current rules in the Senate. It's just not going to happen.
I think because 83% of the country wants it, and because so dead on arrival in the Senate is going to be a problem for the Senate. How much of a problem? I don't know, because the only way to hold them accountable is through elections, and elections are fake, and they're fighting to make them real. But the SAVE Act is pivotal and critical because it solves the fake voters problem, and none of it works without the fake voters. You need the inflated voter rolls. This is why we're so hard on Scott Pressler, aside from the fact that, the nonsense that comes out of his mouth, but he pads the voter rolls the same way Michelle Obama and When We All Vote does. Her umbrella organization includes all of the Get Out the Vote entities. So when you consider the threat, the actual threat to the mechanisms of fake elections, the SAVE Act is a massive threat. And then you have Clay Higgins. It's Clay, right? And say the wrong name.
Rich Higgins.
I
was in the gym yesterday when you said that, and I was like, did you just say
and thank you for correcting me, because I just would have kept going with it.
This going? Rich Higgins has been dead for a few years now.
Not alive now. No, he Clay Higgins has introduced the Mail-in Ballot Integrity Act, meaning that they can't. So the fake voter is taken care of. Padding the voter rolls, whole bunch of identities that may or may not be real people, or that were real people but they're dead, or that are real people but they're not lawful voters. That's the state of the voter rolls, and one of the big problems in the system at its more advanced stages, like here in Colorado, is that the fake voter rolls then get unfettered mail-in ballots. Right, everybody on the list gets a mail-in ballot, and so all the fake ones too. All the fake voters get mail-in ballots too. So those two pieces of legislation go right to the heart of fake voters, fake ballots. And then when we look at what's happening in Georgia and Maricopa and ostensibly Michigan next, and eventually coming home here to Colorado, I think we get the kind of Rocky Mountain Showdown final stage here at Dominion's headquarters, but that's my hopium talking. Then we get to fake counts. And when we solve fake voters, fake ballots, fake counts, we've solved for election integrity.
We've solved a lot of election integrity. That just means the war is continuous, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think if we really solve those things, and that includes mass popular awakening to it, we can't have real elections until we're honest about how fake they are. But assuming that we get to that point, then I think we can have real elections.
I agree. I was gonna expand on that because I thought you were gonna stop at fake voters, and then you expanded on that. So there we go. Yeah. All right, let's keep going here.
I feel like it's also a roller derby, right? Where like punches are being thrown and elbows are being shoved into ribs now. I mean, why does the FBI have election material from Maricopa County?
Because you're crooks.
They have election material from Maricopa County for two reasons. And
a grand jury subpoena.
I was just about to say they have
one reason.
The only answer is they went to a grand jury, they got a subpoena from the grand jury, and they went and took the records in accordance with due process of the law.
Yeah.
That's the only answer that is viable here.
Yeah. People need to internalize that both of these things are true. Okay. Number one, Donald Trump lost the 2020 election.
Nope.
And he is on a vindictive campaign to go after anyone who says that he lost it, right? So they are getting the data in Fulton County and in Maricopa County.
Both of those are grand jury subpoenas, by the way.
About the outcome of the 2020 election, and to criminally prosecute anyone who possibly can who has told the truth. That is one reason. But there is a second reason that is independently important, and that is it is a dry run for 2026. Every time they engage in these tactics, they learn.
Pause it for a second. Okay, everybody pay attention. Pay attention to what he says, because he takes what we have been saying and kind of inverts it a little bit, but I also think it's true. Okay, let's go.
All right.
About the logistics of seizing ballots. And that's no small thing. I mean, in Fulton County, remember, they went and got a search warrant, and then it turns out their search warrant was wrong because it targeted the wrong facility or the wrong place. Well, in the process of fixing that, they learned something about how you seize ballots in Fulton County. When you saw the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, on an evidence truck, it was alarming because Tulsi Gabbard is the director of national intelligence. She was on an evidence truck. But what you saw were boxes of ballots, and they learned a lot about how many trucks you need to get all the ballots, how the boxes need to be stacked. Are they pre-boxed in the facility, or do you need to bring boxes? And the same thing is happening here. So it is both a way of vilifying people over the 2020 election and being vindictive there, but it is also critically a dry run for what they expect to be prepared for and want to be prepared for in 2026.
Is he implying that DNI Gabbard is going to steal the ballots like in a heist?
So I think he's making it a mission, because what he says is every time they do one of these things, they learn more about what we're doing. Now, he phrases it a little bit differently. Oh, they learn more about how to seize ballots. Well, I'm pretty sure the FBI doesn't need to get more information about how to seize stuff. It's a big part of what they do, right? And why is that information valuable? Oh my gosh, if the boxes, they're learning that we keep ballots in boxes in this way, and we batch them this way, and we organize them this way. And this is really dangerous because they're doing a dry run. That to me is very encouraging for, the midterms, TM, because it's what we have said. Kind of if you turn that whole thing on its head. Every time they hold a fake election, we learn more about how they do it. Every time they hold a fake election and they rig it, we learn more about how they do it. And they've had to change their tactics, right? From 2020 to 2022, they couldn't do the same, couldn't stop counting in 2022 because that was so outrageous in 2020. So what did they do? Well, they had the 18, 20-inch ballot issue, and we had drawer 3, and they moved things off, and we learned more about how they do it. All of these things are coming out at the same time in the run up to the 2026 election. He seems very afraid that a bunch of stuff is going to get seized in the wake of the 2026 election. I hope so, but I don't need that to be excited about what he's saying. I'm excited about what he's saying because he's basically proving us right.
He's been on a freak out mode. And just to correct the record, I got to correct the record. The 19-20-inch ballot thing is false. It was actually the Sequoia Edge AVC voting machines that we used in Maricopa County. And that is why. And Venezuela designed the software for the poll books that were manufactured in America, American companies in America. By Venezuelans.
But sitting in a glass room in Venezuela, rigging our elections.
And for those that don't know, we're talking about the Ralph Pizzullo book, Stolen Elections, riddled with errors. One of the worst books I've ever read in my entire life. Most factually inaccurate books I've ever read in my entire life. Last night claimed that Maricopa County was using the Sequoia Edge AVC voting systems in 2020 and 2022 in Maricopa County. And that is why they had the major issues in 2022 during Kerry Lake's election, ignoring the court case that went on that proved it was the 19-inch ballot configuration setting on the Lexmark, not Lexapro, but Lexmark printers. So yeah, that was a joke that we were making there.
Yeah, I mean, you need Lexapro to navigate this story, but it was the Lexmark.
You want to know where that came from? Actually, when I went to the VA one time, they tried. I've never taken an SSRI in my life, but they tried to prescribe me Lexapro and Topamax, and I put the two words together: Lexamark Max.
Lexamark. Got it.
Topamark or whatever. Anyways, but yeah, that's the tangent I went off on. But yeah, Mark Elias is in full blown freak out mode, and for good reason. For good reason.
He's terrified they're going to learn how they do it. That's effectively what he's saying, and I am really enjoying this version of Mark Elias. He is giving us content for days, and he is making me feel way better about where we're going with election integrity.
Yeah, and he's also freaking out about actual processes of the law being followed and misattributing them to Trump's vendetta somehow. A grand jury subpoena that shares the same exact vendetta as President Trump, I guess. Or maybe just people actually give a shit about our elections. I'm trying to think if it's better to go to the voter roll story first and the SAVE Act, or if it's because he touched on both. Let's play this clip here. John Solomon talking about a story that's going to be coming down the pipeline, but the most interesting thing is the phase 2 of 5 comment you'll see here in a second, and we'll talk about that.
The next 10 days, Steve, we're going to have a lot more. We are going to be able to get, for the first time, I've been able to start processing these documents, a large body of evidence that's in the intelligence community that raises concerns about foreign interference in our election. That'll probably be the end of this week or early next week. The documents are explosive. They're really remarkable. And what's most remarkable is that all this has been kept a secret from the American people, possibly President Trump in some cases, until recently, of course, when his team told him. I think there's a lot there. And then in between those two things, we're going to reveal another code-named FBI investigation that targeted President Trump, one you've never heard of before, one that may be among the most troubling. We have Crossfire Hurricane, of course. We've got Plasmic Echo, and we have the third one that targeted the January 6th investigation, Arctic Frost.
Have you ever heard of Plasmic Echo?
Mm-mm.
I just caught that. What is Plasmic Echo?
I don't know.
I'm looking it up real quick for the machine's rundown. Plasmic Echo was the FBI's code name for its criminal investigation into President Donald Trump's handling of classified national defense documents. Began in 2022 and focused on possible violations of Espionage Act and obstruction of justice related to the retention of sensitive material. So it's like Arctic Frost with a different name.
Who's the target?
Trump.
And his allies and supporters, or just Trump?
I don't know. It says an FBI summary dated February 22nd, 2024 confirmed the case ID Plasmic Echo, mishandling of classified or national defense information. Court filings revealed that a close associate urged Trump to return all materials, warning, don't give them a noble reason to indict you because they will. I don't know. First time I've heard that, so I just thought that was interesting. All right, let's keep going.
Mag says
There's another one that is
Mag says you must be using Perplexity because she looked it up and got the same answer and was reading along with you. Were you using Perplexity for your summary?
I'm using that was Google Brave.
Oh,
or not Google Brave, but Brave, which is a Google platform. But
all the AIs are starting to sound like each other.
Oh yeah, I mean, I don't do the paid Perplexity anymore, so I get the basic searches on it. I just use Grok, ChatGPT, and Perplexity, all three at the same time, and compare the answers.
That's what I do too.
Is really deeply troubling. It's troubling to the FBI. It's troubling to the intelligence community. It seems to involve speech delimiters. In other words, if you said something or you spoke a certain way about a certain issue, you potentially were deemed a national security threat to the United States and you were put under an assessment and potentially criminal investigation. So I learned of this operation because I was targeted in 2022. I had to cooperate with the Justice Department. When the Justice Department and I talked, they realized that their entire theory of the case was ludicrous. But as a result of that, I've been on a 2.5, 3-year mission to get these documents, to get the truth out about what happened. Recently, FBI agents working for Kash Patel found this operation, found the skiff that it was hidden, found the code word name for it, found the prohibited access files. So one of the things that Chris Wray's people did is they would start these political investigations targeting Trump or even someone else. They would keep it off the books. Most people could not see it in the FBI Sentinel system. This one was one of those well hidden. As a result of some senior leadership that worked around Kash Patel. You know, there were people that were in this era that knew what was going on. In some cases, maybe even been required to work on certain things. They knew what was going on, and they've been guiding Kash Patel to these records and helping him find these records in the labyrinth of secrecy that Chris Wray's FBI created. So these senior executives are really helping uncover some really jaw-dropping stuff. And I think in the next couple of days, people will see that as well. And so the focus in this grand jury subpoena that went in the last few days to Maricopa County, seized many gigabytes of election data, is the 2024 election, which is interesting because President Trump won there. But there is a discovery that was made by congressional observers. Every year, the House Administration Committee sends observers, one Democrat, one Republican, to various voting centers. One of the teams, the Republican Democrat team that went to Maricopa County, observed something very disturbing. They took pictures. They wrote a long report. Congressman Abe Hamadeh hinted at this in an oversight letter recently. The information in that report was so troubling to the FBI, and when coupled to the things that the Arizona Senate found in 2020 that were raised as concerns, and the things that Hamadeh and Kerry Lake raised in 2022, they were able to get a grand jury subpoena from a federal grand jury and execute the transmission of a large amount of voter data. They're going to go through that data, looking for some of the telltale signs that were in this congressional report. I hope in the next couple of days to make that congressional report public so everybody can see what it was that observers on Brian Stiles' House Administration Committee saw. Brian Stiles himself acknowledged that they were working with federal authorities on this specific Arizona matter. So you got Congress working with the FBI. And I think this is phase 2 of about a 5-phase look at states, particularly blue states or blue areas of states, where elections are not administered the way the law says they're supposed to be. And as a result, the FBI may come in and prosecute people because it is a federal felony if you don't follow your state's laws. If you don't.
Okay, so we can kind of land that there. So broadly, you know, I think John Solomon kind of is the political wind, right? He's like the barometer of how the investigations are going, what's going to come out. He's kind of the prophecy, so to speak. He kind of lays out what's going to be coming out. Is it going to be something big? I don't know. I've reached out to some people that I know with, you know, close connections and haven't heard anything about anything big coming out in the coming days. But the thing that I thought was really interesting, he said there at the end, was this is phase 2 of what he believes to be a 5-phase process. And phase 1, I would imagine, and he's talking about Maricopa being phase 2, I would imagine Fulton County was phase 1. Phase 2 would be Maricopa. Phase 3, you know, we kind of, I think it was maybe you and I, or it might have been Zach, that asked me to predict what I think the next state would be. And I said, I think it's going to be Michigan. Because
you and I were talking about it on text.
Maybe that's,
I don't, Yeah, I don't think we did that on the air.
Okay. Well, either way, I think the third state, phase 3, so to speak, will be Michigan, and then followed by either Colorado or perhaps Pennsylvania. I think there's a lot coming out with Griswold right now. I think she's the low-hanging fruit, in my opinion. The BIOS.
I feel like we have to go through the process of Georgia, Maricopa, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and then Colorado, because Colorado is the election fraud test kitchen.
Yeah, but everybody says that, though.
Well, actually, Holly at Altitude said it. She was the one that made it. And with the domestic headquarters, so Colorado domestic headquarters for Dominion Voting Systems is the pilot program and development state for risk limiting audits. It is when they call it the gold standard of elections, what they're referring to is kind of what Halderman describes as the paper record undergirding the system that gets you have a paper record combined with risk limiting audit. So we mitigate all of the issues with the machines, all the things that they talked about before 2020, the Democrats talked about in kill chain and in court records and in the curling case, these vulnerabilities, these issues with elections, they're mitigated when you adopt the system that Colorado uses. And they all say that. They all put up Colorado as the exemplar for how we mitigate these problems, which is why I think it's going to be the last one.
Could be. That would make sense. And again, I still think Griswold is the lowest hanging fruit of all of the cases out there with the BIOS password story.
It's the lowest something.
Yeah. All right, so let's jump into this.
Jonestown Jenna needs to go to prison, but here's the problem. If Jonestown Jenna goes to prison, the rest of those guys are going to walk. And she's the puppet. She's not an elections expert. She's not that smart. When you ask her about how elections are run, she will just repeat some clickbaity kind of talking point, like 2 sets of passwords? There's 2 sets of passwords. Yeah, but you leaked one and one of those sets of passwords, and you didn't tell the clerks and you lied to them about it. And yeah, but there's 2 sets of passwords. That's what you're getting with Jenna Griswold. The real conspirators that actually did what they did here, did the password thing, all of that, those people are going to walk because Jenna Griswold will be scapegoated. I'll still be happy when she goes to prison, but it's not enough for sure.
It's a good point. That's a good point. She's the fall guy.
She is definitely the fall guy.
And none of these elected officials in those positions have any idea what they're doing. Raffensperger in Georgia has no clue what he's doing. By
design. That's right. It's so they have to rely on the experts. The experts are the NGO association outside of the chain of command, can't be considered acting as an arm of the government, don't have any oversight, don't have any open records responsibilities. They're the experts that everybody in government defers to, and they have zero oversight. It's maddening if you think too hard about it, which is why, people don't want you to think too hard about it, which is why Brian and I are inconvenient.
Yep. All right. We got another.
All shows are why we vote now.
We got another sponsor to take care of here. And then we're going to get into California and their ballot initiative signature drive. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Wait till you see this clip here. Before we do that, though, let's go ahead and hit this sponsor. It's a new era for America First international assistance. President Trump has been clear. America won't hesitate to act, and we won't write blank checks. From now on, U.S. assistance will be strategic, accountable, and tied to results that make America safer and more secure. Stronger borders, tougher enforcement, and real cooperation to stop illegal immigration and keep deadly drugs out of our communities. America First assistance will stabilize fragile regions before crises reach our shores, strengthen key partners, and support Americans, farmers, manufacturers, and workers. 80% of Trump voters support such an international assistance. And to Beijing, if you're using aid to buy influence and control, the game is changing. America will lead with strength, with purpose, and with conditions that put our security first. All right. And let's jump into this clip here. This is a group that's allegedly fundraising, or trying to garner signatures for ballot initiatives sponsored by an organization called Building a Better California. And let's go ahead and play this clip here.
Hey, what's the line for sign petition? Shut up! Don't say nothing more. They get $25 to sign a petition. They get $25? $5. $5. Okay. Did you have to have your ID?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
Never. All right, so we can fast forward to
Right here?
I don't know. What name do you got? What name is that?
The Crocker.
Jeffrey Crocker. We'll be here. Come back. Yeah, you here. You only signed 2 of them so far, right?
Yeah. I just scribble and have. He signed 2 of them. Oh. He signed 2 of them.
Yeah, I know. I'm not gonna lie. Keep you on, so.
It's gonna get I get $5 too.
Yeah.
And what is it?
Just sign it.
Just sign it.
Yeah. You ready now? First name is going to be Carol. Last name Sanderson. This is the address right here. This is the city, Avila Beach. This is the zip code. Oh, so remember, first name is Carol.
She telling her what name to sign?
yes.
What
Yes.
the hell?
So they're giving out $5. They've got
Which
a
is illegal.
long ass line. Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
illegal.
Yeah.
You have a long ass line of like homeless people and down and out people in line to get their $5. They go up there. They're telling you the name, the address, and everything else that you're going to be signing for, and then you sign the name.
And when we say it's fake, we get yelled at. It's fake in every level. It's fake where they draw the districts. It's fake when they get measures on the ballot. It's fake when they get candidates on the ballot. It's fake when they do the voting. It's fake when they count it. It's fake when they shut it down afterwards. Are those people going to go to prison? It's because do you have the statute?
No, I don't off the top of my head. But
Because every count, right? Every single signature should be a separate count under that statutory violation of paying people for their signatures on a petition. If we're using the Tina Peters standard of justice, every name should be an additional statutory violation. And I wonder how many of them forms a felony.
Yeah. So Laura Powell puts this out on X. The video appears to show signature gatherers for ballot initiative sponsored by Building a Better California, a recently formed political group bankrolled by prominent tech billionaires. It is illegal to offer money or anything of value in exchange for a person's signature on an initiative petition. It's also illegal to knowingly cause fake signatures to be added. Campaigns typically hire independent signature gathering agencies to collect petitions and wouldn't be responsible for rogue actions by individual circulators or the agency. In 2018, the LA district attorney charged 9 people with felonies for paying homeless residents with $1 bills and cigarettes to forge signatures on ballot measure petitions and voter registration forms. A spokesperson for Building a Better California, Abby Lunardi, told me via email that they were aware of the video and have contacted the signature gathering agency to reject any petitions from the circulator in the video. What are the odds that you think they actually reject any of those ballot signatures?
I don't.
Absolutely.
But if it was for a ballot petition that the state didn't want, they'd reject a bunch of them.
Well, so I looked up the Building Better. It says Building Better California is primarily funded by prominent tech billionaires in 2026. In January 2026, it was established with $35 million raised, including $20 million from Google co-founder Sergey Brin, contributors from former Google CEO Eric Schmidt, venture capitalist Michael Moritz, and others, cryptocurrency investor Chris Larson, Peter Thiel, John Doerr, Tony Zhu, Max Levchin, Patrick Collison, and Stuart Resnick of Wonderful Company. So bunch of billionaires funding this operation. What they bring up, the point they bring up about, they outsource the signature gathering, plausible deniability. I'm giving it to you. You go ahead and do whatever you got to do. Results matter.
Can't be held accountable for these rogue actors. It's like the CIA.
That's got to change, man. That's got to change. That video right there, when the woman, like the $5 thing, yeah, that's concerning. That's very concerning. They don't actually get a transfer of money on video, but showing her and saying, you are Carol Sanderson, and here's your address, and make sure you sign Carol. Holy shit.
Yeah, that's
holy
wild.
Shit. Every signature is a felony.
Two felonies for the ones that are fake, that are not that person, that that you listed 2 separate statutory violations.
Yeah.
For every single one, compound it. Throw this. You threaten those ladies with the appropriate prison time for all of those statutory violations, I bet they might flip. And they could roll it all up.
All right. So I'm going to take we're going to start wrapping up here. I am going to actually, you know what? Let's take a quick pause before we get into this next story, because this is a personal privilege story for me. This is my moment of personal privilege here. But before we do that, let's get a word from Tiny Bright.
Legend says, on St. Patrick's Day, a beard without oil is just a chin with ambition. But a beard with soft disclosure beard oil, that's true treasure. Spiced vanilla, naked, smooth as a leprechaun's getaway plan. Soft enough to impress your barber, bold enough to confuse a baby goat. And this boar bristle brush tames your beard like it holds the crown coin. Every bottle is American made, which means when you buy Soft Disclosure, you're supporting 6 American small businesses. That's not luck, that's capitalism with cheekbones. And while you're at it, try our mint green deodorant, because even legends need fresh pits. Soft Disclosure, go for gold. Visit softdisclosure.com and use promo code TINYBRIGHT for 15% off.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. Promo code does not apply to bundle discounts.
So good.
So good.
We got it. Tell us in the chat what merch, which part of that you want the merch. Do you want him running from the bear on like a shirt or a mug, or just like the face, or like what do you want to see? We will make that happen for you.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, guys. So again, softdisclosure.com, promo code TinyBright, and let's go ahead and jump into this. It's not really a story. It's something that's going around the internet, and this is going to backfire royally in the quote unquote Democrats. I hate the Democrat-Republican fight, but this is one of them. So this was put out on X. There's an ongoing battle right now because apparently I don't even know the source of the information, but apparently it came out that the Department of War is spending like $6 million or $7 million a month to buy steak and lobster for our active duty troops. And they're serving it at the chow halls, forward deployed, and all this stuff. I don't know why this story is getting so much attention right now, but this guy here, Luther Abel, put out a list of all the influencers and leftist people that are making a comparison of this to Snap fraud. This is like their comeback to Snap fraud. Like, you guys caught us in Minnesota with the Somali daycare fraud and all the Snap violations and everything else. Well, we're going to get you with steak and lobster for our troops. Okay, that's not going to work out too well. Molly Jong Fast, some of the frivolous September purchases made under Secretary Pete Hegseth's stewardship include $98,000 Steinway grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff's home, a $5.3 million for Apple devices such as the new iPad, and an astronomical amount of shellfish, including... Where did I leave off? Including $2 million for Alaskan king crab, $6.9 million worth of lobster tail. Lobster tail is apparently a favorite of Hegseth's Pentagon. The department spent more than $7.4 million on luxury items, blah, blah, blah. Okay, some more of the examples we got out here. Jamel Hill, but Snap recipients are the real problem. That's her response to that.
What a dumb bitch.
Like that.
Oh
right
my God. That the people that are fighting for America get steak and lobster is being drawn in comparison to SNAP benefit recipients. Wow.
Yeah. Mehdi Hassan, same thing. Hey, Doge, pointing at it. Joseph Allen, Pete Hegseth, 2 million on crab legs. Representative Jim McGovern on his official account shared Molly Jong Fast, but still no health care for you.
Still not the role of the federal government, dumbass.
Yeah. So, I wanted to put this to bed real quick, because when I was in the Marine Corps from 2008 to 2013, we ate steak and lobster too. That was not under Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. That was under Barack Obama.
Is that because you hate SNAP recipients, Brian?
No, not at all. So when you're forward deployed, you get steak and lobster on Friday nights. It's like a Friday night treat for the troops. And it's limited. You know, there isn't like, it's not like all you can eat or anything. It's shitty. It's not good food. Like, I mean, it's good compared to what we've been eating, but it's like a treat. And I've told the story on SITREP before when we were in Afghanistan in a forward deployed base, a forward operating base, a FOB, in the middle of like nothing. It was 60 guys on a hill with nothing around us except, you know, Afghans, drug lords, Taliban, whatever you want to call it. Every day we were getting in firefights for the first, you know, probably 3 or 4 months of our deployment. On November 10th, the Marine Corps birthday, they airdropped us lobster. It was like the coolest thing ever, packed on dry ice. Most of the guys were like, I'm not eating that. It came on a bird. And I'm like, smelled it, no ammonia. I'm like, it's good to go. And I sat there, I ate like 10 of them, man. First real food I'd eaten in 3 months. That was under Barack Obama. I don't like Barack Obama one bit. Never even crossed my mind to criticize him for giving steak and lobster to forward deployed troops. Okay.
It's because you don't want people to have health care.
And SNAP recipients.
Yeah.
Here's the other thing, and a lot of people don't know this, and these retards that are freaking out about this don't know this. We pay for that in the military. It's not free.
Just like SNAP recipients, right?
Oh, wait, no, they don't pay for that. No, they don't. Because if you're receiving SNAP, you're not in the taxable threshold. So no, they don't pay for it at all. We pay for that. Let me break this down for you. Your E3 right now, a Lance Corporal in the Marine Corps, makes $2,377 per month. $2,377 per month. That's about $600 per week. Okay? Think about that. In a job that's 24/7. Now, granted, we only show up to work on certain days, but we can be called in at any time. We can be called in for duty. We miss holidays because we got to stand duty. We get deployed. We go to training ops in the field for a week at a time. We don't get extra pay for going to the field. We do get combat pay and stuff when you're deployed, but we're making $600 a week as an E3, which is the majority of our troops are at that level, or the one of the largest rank structures up to E3. We pay for that. There is what's called basic allowance for subsistence that comes out of our checks, BAS. And that is what funds the chow halls, the mess halls, and all of that stuff. So these fucking retards that are out here comparing steak and lobster to SNAP and healthcare, what a bad look, man.
Yeah, should be. There's a lot of stupid people. So there are people that will think that Jemele Hill is making a good point, but I stand by my largely involuntary response that she's a dumb bitch.
Jemele Hill, you fucking retard. And I hate putting the swear word and the R word together, but she's definitely
better though. It's like it's compounding the insults. It makes it better.
No. I will never consider retard an insult. Anybody that considers retard an insult to mentally handicapped people do not understand.
I didn't say to mentally handicapped.
No. But that's the argument that's made. And I've laid this out many, many times. If you to say you can't use retard because it disparages mentally handicapped people is disparaging mentally handicapped people, because agreed. Retard means that you are stopping yourself from something that you are capable of doing. And I will stand by that until the day I die. Jemele Hill is retarded.
Agreed.
Okay. And just real quick to people in the chat, when you are deployed, you're not paying BAS. So when you're deployed, you're not paying for that food. It's when you're not deployed, which has been where we've been for most of the time. But yeah, if you're in garrison, you're paying BAS, basic allowance for subsistence.
Yeah, grumpy old man says, wait, you have to pay for your meals? Really? Yeah, that was my response exactly. I'm like, hang on a second, what?
Yep.
So the $2 million that they're complaining about, the line item ostensibly in Pete Heggs' budget, is actually accounted for in the money that you guys pay as part of your package, right?
Mom of two said BAS amount for enlisted members, including E3, receive a monthly tax-free allowance of $460 for food and drink. And if you are enlisted in the barracks and you live in the barracks, that $460 is automatically deducted from your paycheck. If you live out in town, it is not. So I was married, so I lived out in town. I didn't have to eat in the barracks, or eat at the chow halls. Although I did eat at the chow halls. You know what my chow hall was called in the Marine Corps? Like the actual name of my chow hall in 2010 at 1st Battalion, 8th Marines? The Jim Crow Chow Hall.
Nice.
I thought that was always so funny.
Yikes. Do they still call it that?
I think it is still called the Jim Crow Chow Hall.
Shit.
Yeah.
Well, the Democrats will try to keep that, and it's their legacy. So,
all right. So I don't know. We do have a few rants, so let's go ahead and jump into these. There we go. All right, makes sense to me. Done with Iran. The school that was hit had no kids. It was on the IRGC base, was full of ammo, and the principal locked the doors. I am not touching that schoolgirl story until there is absolute clarity on it, because there is just pure propaganda from both sides getting poured on that story. So
yeah.
I'm not touching that.
It's also the premise of what turned Sergeant Brody in the show Homeland is the cover up of a bombing on a school. And I just watched that show. Actually, one of my friends who's in DHS was watching the show at the same time as we were talking about that and the kind of bombings and whatnot. But I thought it was interesting that came up in this story. You know how we were talking about how in Jack Ryan, it's like Venezuela and Iran and Syria. And it's like, wow, this is ripped from the Right Now headlines. Homeland is kind of like that too. Choose your own bad guy.
It's almost like CIA has their thumb on Hollywood in some form or fashion.
I mean, Homeland, Claire Danes told, who was it? Colbert, I think. Yeah. That they were consulting with the CIA for it.
Yep. Yeah, the only reason I'm not touching that story is because everything surrounding it is just inconclusive as all hell. And they're taking this pixelated picture and they're like, hey, we got this little picture, and because of this, we can tell it was a Tomahawk. And then you're also like, well, it could have been a 55 as well. So who knows? But
that's important too, Brian, to point out where we don't know and everything is based on speculation, because there's very few outlets that will take that position. Whatever the position coming out of, whether it's the Jamel Hill types of the world or the Pete Hegseth types of the world, whichever side of that divide you're on, the majority of folks are going to grab whatever the headline is and forward it as though it's a fact. And as you said, we don't really have any facts on this case yet.
All right. Makes sense to me. Says, to expand just a bit, Aussie Man did actual journalism and found metadata anomalies around the incident. I talked with Grok about it, and the metadata timestamps are indeed manipulated. What is this about? Aussie Man?
I think on that, the first part was the bombing, no? The principal, yeah. I think she's talking about the school.
Oh, I skipped over one. Okay,
you did, but you read the second part, I think, of the first part, so that worked actually. I thought you did that on purpose.
Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Aussie Man, I'll look that up. Aussie Mix says, good morning, y'all. I actually work with the Ukrainian, supposedly ex-military over there. He absolutely hates Russia. He flips the F out if someone says he's Russian. He's a colossal prick. Thank you both. I cannot be, for the life of me, I can't imagine a Western Ukrainian Azov battalion aligned ex-military member being a prick. I can't for the life of me imagine that. Sorry.
I would just call him Russian all the time.
Total sarcasm. A buddy of mine that I served.
I know that's shocking to everyone, but I would literally just call him Russian all the time.
A buddy of mine, yeah, so would I. A buddy of mine I served with in the Marines went over to Ukraine and did like militia work over there. And it's really funny, like seeing him talk about it, because I know what a shitbag he was in the Marine Corps. And like he makes all these war stories. I'm like, you never did any of that stuff. I know because I was there, like that kind of stuff. And so he comes back and he's talking about all the shit he saw in Ukraine. And I was like, oh, just like in Afghanistan when you did nothing because like you were such a shitbag that we put you off on the side. Yeah. Yeah, that didn't happen, but he's a complete prick about a lot of this stuff. So Quilting Queen 17, happy hump day. Today I'm not discombobulated. I'm Twitter-pated. Love you guys. It would be X-pated.
Quilting Queen. Boy,
it would be
discombobulator.
Yes. And it was Quilting Queen that sent that. So to show off our discombobulators.
Love them.
And Tone Ranger. Also, you would be X-capated, not Twitter-pated. Monty 710. I went to JBS, John Birch Society meeting last night. They need more members. Their main focus this month is get out of the UN and stop the ConnCon. JBS.org.
Not to be confused with stopping CannCon.
Yes, don't stop CannCon.
We can't stop the CannCon.
Help Ash understand CannCon. You know how many times I've used that when I'm talking about the fourth turning, and I use that?
You use what?
Help Ash understand CannCon.
Oh.
High awakening, unraveling crisis. That's the order of the turnings. Help Ash understand CannCon. J. Teeter Broom 2, brother on nuclear sub, deployed and submerged 30 to 45 days at a time. Went to visit for Christmas at Pearl Harbor. Families were served steak and lobster on Christmas Day on the docked sub 1972. It's a tradition in the military. Like Jamel Hill, you look seriously retarded saying this. This is not new. It's not new. It's not a gotcha against SNAP recipients. Okay. Funding
or
our
healthcare.
military or healthcare. Jim McGovern. I mean, that was just I saw this and I was like, this is a joke, right? And then I think Christina Wong posted something about it. And let me see if I can find it real quick. She actually posted a pretty cool. So Undercover Brother said civilian perception may be wildly off. Perception, reality. And that's exactly it. Like when you get your steak and lobster, that's what it looks like. It's microwave lobster. It's not even like boiled and then whatever. And it's a steak that's maybe medium well, but usually well. And you're eating it with a plastic fork, a plastic knife. You get a sugar packet, salt and pepper if you're lucky. And Christina Wong said, not going to lie, definitely would. So there we go. That's a really bad look for them going after that. And Jim McGovern doubling down.
All they have are bad looks, Brian. These people are just enemies of America.
I'm gonna put out a post on that. So, all right, Ash, what you got coming up?
I will be back in an hour. It's my final day of taking over the Daily Herald, and so we're continuing our 34-part series on how great Doge is, and it'll be fun. And then after that, we're going to end the Daily Herald just a little bit early because directly following that, we have part 3 of Tuckabee and the Jews. So busy day, but and then Ghost and I will be back tomorrow for the choice.
All right. And guys, once again, please smash that thumbs up if you have not done so. 3,800 people watching, almost 1,000 thumbs up. We can do better. Please hit that thumbs up and we will see you guys. I am not doing any shows, for the rest of the day. So I'll be doing some writing today. I might write a story about the steak and lobster. I think I'm going to.
You should.
I think I'm going to write a story.
You have great perspective on it.
All right. See you guys later.
Bye, guys.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.